Hello everyone, here speaks Henry Donko, also known as the Ethical Boy. In this video, I'm going to show you step by step how a flet control is made from a Flutter widget. Let's dive right in. So having a look at the flet roadmap, I found this tab bar very interesting. So what you are building is actually a Cupertino tab bar. So this is the Flutter API for it. And as you can see, here's how it works, and that's what we're going to be building today. So the bottom navigation bar, so this is actually the material version of it. This is already available in Flet, and what we are going to be building today is actually the iOS style version, so the Cupertino version of it. All right, now that you know that, let's move directly to building the application. So the first thing I'll do is to open a terminal session on the client. Alright, that's it. And now you move to the SDK Python, and then you move to your playground. So from the setup, while setting up in the setup video, I mentioned that so I saved it there as main.py, but here in my dev environment, I saved it as testchanges.py. So you just need to give it a name and be able to run it. So I'll open this playground in the terminal. So I have my two terminal sessions over here. All right, so let's kind of hide this. Let's have a look at the Flet packages, Flet core, src, and then navigation bar. So it should be somewhere over here. Okay, so we're actually going to copy this and paste it inside the same directory, but rename it and say Cupertino, I don't know, Cupertino navigation bar. Let's say it like that. So Cupertino navigation bar, and I'm going to add this to Git. Oh, I forgot something very important. I have to switch branches. So I was working on the search bar before this, and I have to switch to a new branch before I start building this one. So new branch for main, and I'm going to call it Cupertino nav bar. So I'm going to, I don't know, smart checkout. So I'm going to choose the changes from the remote, apply changes and mark as results. I just want to skip all of this. I really don't care about it. It really doesn't matter. All right, so we have our Cupertino navigation bar that we created over here, and we are going to make modifications. So the first thing is actually to have a look at this Cupertino tab bar, have a look at its properties. So you can see this one had a lot of properties, and this Cupertino tab bar has quite few properties. That's really nice because it will reduce the work we have to do. Okay, so as you can see, we have this required list bottom navigation bar item, so a list of items. I guess we have the same thing over here, list bottom navigation bar items. So it means that over here to the Cupertino nav bar, I'm going to close this one. We are going to, let's scroll down a little. Okay, the destinations, exactly. So this one is, oh, it's even written here, navigation rail specific. So I'm going to say over here specific, I don't know, and say destinations is a list of navigation destination. All right, so we are going to leave it as is for this property because that's the exact same thing as that of the navigation bar. So we are going to leave this just as is. And before we move on, I'm actually, to avoid repetition, I'm going to close this one, so to remove it from here, and we're going to import it from the navigation bar so that we avoid repetition, and import it from the navigation bar. So it's imported, and yeah. All right, so the next property, let's continue having a look at these properties available here. The next property is this value changed on tap. So this on tap, Let's have a look at this one. I guess it has the same thing. So value change int on top, and it means we don't have to change. So this is the counterpart in Flet, the onChange. So we won't have to change two properties already, the destination and the onChange, because they are exactly the same in the Cupertino tab bar. So we won't have to change it. So we'll just leave the defaults or what this bottom navigation bar has already. So the next one we are looking at is the current index 0. So you see here it clearly has the current index. That's nice. The background color. Does this have a background color? Okay, background color, and I guess it is also implemented. So BG color. So BG color we are also going to leave it. The next one is okay, we are here. The next one is the active color. Active color, and I guess this one doesn't have an active color, so we need to add that. All right, so what we are going to do is very simple. We have this BG color. We are going to copy this, paste it just below or anywhere, paste it and modify this to active color. So I'm using Codium, by the way, if you don't yet know, and I'm just going to follow exactly what has been done for BG color because they are quite the same. So what has been done for BG color, I'm just going to reproduce it for active color. All right, so you move to all instances of BG color. So when I say over here I have to add an active color, exactly the same, you move to the next instance and this is it. So you will copy all of this, that concerns the BG color, and just below you paste it. So you reformat equally, and from here I can remove the search and I can say active color, and Codium helps me as usual, and it will modify all the instances of BG color. But here take care when using the set attribute, you don't use underscores. So it's a convention in Flet to use camel case. So we say label and then type. So here, for instance, we are going to say color, and we are going to copy this and paste it over here. So active color in camel case. Please note that. So that's it for the active color. Very simple. And let's have a look at the next one, inactive color. So inactive color, does this have an inactive color? It didn't have, or let's have a look. Was the inactive color implemented? The inactive color was not implemented. So we are going to add an inactive color exactly the same way as we added the active color. Inactive color, and to all the instances of active color, for example, we are going to be adding inactive color. Inactive color, and over here I'll copy this, I'll paste just below, reformat it, oops, and then say over here, so remove the search and say inactive color, copy, paste over here. Oops, this one is, why is the formatting so wrong? All right, so inactive color, inactive color, inactive color, and over here I say inactive color equally, copy and paste it here. So now we have the inactive color. That's really simple. That's how we do to facilitate our work, by having a look at what has already been done and try to reproduce it exactly the same for the new properties. So we look at the next property, what is necessary. So we've done the inactive color and we now have the icon size. Okay, so was the icon size implemented? Icon size, so here we have the elevation. No, icon size was not implemented. So what we are going to do is actually we don't need this elevation for the Cupertino navigation bar. So as you can see over here, the Cupertino tab bar, or the Cupertino navigation bar as you can call it, it doesn't have an icon, it doesn't have an elevation. So what we can do, because is we are going to look for all the instances of this elevation, and we will modify the elevation by the icon size instead. Why are we doing this? Is because the icon size actually takes the same type as the elevation, And because we don't need this elevation, we can get rid of it and replace it by icon size instead. If elevation was needed, we could just create a new parameter below and say icon size, and then follow all instances of elevation to add the icon size. But because elevation is not needed, I'm going to get rid of it or modify it by icon size. So I'm going to say over here icon size and say replace, 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 replace. Okay, so be very careful over here because it's not in camel case, it's actually using this underscore, and we don't want that. We actually want camel case. So icon size and icon size. And over here, what is wrong? Oh, it didn't modify. Why didn't it? Okay, elevation and elevation. Okay, it's all right now. So I'm going to move back up. Move back up. Side. All right, here. So the next property is the height of the bar. Let's have a look. Was the height implemented? I guess the height will be using this property will be used. So the height is actually already present. So I don't think we still need another height. So I think we can just use this one. So this height is actually what is used by the constraint control. So when something is implemented like this, we don't actually repeat it in the specifics. So let's just leave the height as such already. And what's the next property? The next property is the border. All right, let's have a look. Was the border used over here? Indicator shape, outline border. So no, this is the shape, but what we are looking at is a border. So something of type border. All right, what we're going to do is very simple. Let's move to this and say I move to the container because I know that the container has a border property. So I'm going to make a search and say border. Let's move to, all right, so it has a border over here. So we are just going to copy this property exactly as it is over here. Let me actually split it and move to the right and close this. And we are going to copy exactly what is here. So let me make all instances. We copy this because we need this property. We copy this and somewhere around this, anywhere you can just paste it anywhere. And you see border, you import this from flet border. All right, and we are going to move through all the instances of border. So border over here, let's get down a little and select this border. So border radius is not needed, we just need border. So move over here, this is border again in the before build. So you copy this, look for the before build, and here you say border, you paste in the border. And the next one, here's the border once more. We don't want border radius, we want the border. So we copy the border once more and you just look for anywhere and paste it in there. So it doesn't really matter, there's no order for this. Oops, where did it go to? Oh, what did I do? All right, border, and you arrange it and border. So that's it, just as is, because we want to name it border. So just as is, that's already it. So that's how simple it was to add the border. We are going to close this container and let's have a look at the next property. So the next property is actually, oh, that's all. So those are all the properties needed. And now we are going to remove the unnecessary properties. So destinations was needed, the selected index was needed, bg color, active color, inactive color, border. The label behavior was not needed, the icon size we added it. The shadow color is not needed, the indicator color is not needed. So all of this say unchanged was not needed. And what we are going to do is we go down a little and we remove all instances where these stuffs have been used. If not, we have a lot of errors everywhere. So I'm actually going to say structure. I think it can help me. Navigation bar, And from here, I'm going to say, so the label behavior, for instance, was not needed, so remove it. And the next one was surface theme color, it was not needed also. Oops, surface theme color over here. So this was not needed. The indicator shape and indicator color were not needed, and the shadow color too. So we get rid of all what was not needed for this. So I think that's all. That should be all, I guess. And back to this before build command, you might have noticed this, right? So this indicator shape is not needed, so we get rid of it also. And you rename this, get control name. So having a look at your control, the control, let's actually, I don't know, because we are going to modify this. I have to modify this later on because we copied it from the last section. And here we have to rename this to CupertinoNavigationBar Navigation Bar, and also over here CupertinoNavigationBar. So this is the online docs. We are going to make a peer out to the documentation after we've added the control. So here's the online docs. Okay, the next one is to rename over here CupertinoNavigationBar, the get control name. All right, so that's how simple it was to add all the properties, all the required properties. So over here, I'm going to remove all of this navigation label behavior because they are not needed. We just copied them and they are actually not needed in our example. So and here, let me say optimize imports. All right, so that we import just the necessary stuffs. So that's how simple it was. I'm going to close the structure. That's how simple it was. And we are going to move over to importing it into the init file. So in the init file, you can see, you can probably add it somewhere here, I don't know, and say from fletcore dot CupertinoNavigationBar import CupertinoNavigationBar. So that's it, and we can close this init. I'm going to open my playground, test changes. This was for the search bar I made. So I'm going to, because I don't need it at the moment, I don't need all of this, so I'm just going to clear and say pass over here. This is just to clear. All right, so I guess that's it. Okay, so the next part is we're actually going to look for all instances of this navigation bar. So the navigation bar, we copy the material navigation bar, to say it like that, because this material navigation bar is used in the page. So as you can see, let me show a short example. As you can see over here, navigation bar. So the navigation bar, this is actually how we use the navigation bar in Flet. We give it to the page, but at the moment this navigation bar is actually just for the, or let me move to it and say in Flet core.page navigation bar. As you can see, it expects at the moment just a navigation bar, but we've added a CupertinoNavigationBar, and we are equally going to append it here. So let's say it accepts a navigation bar or a CupertinoNavigationBar, and because this is optional, I have to change this to union, I guess. So union, it can take navigation bar, CupertinoNavigationBar, or none. All right, and from here I'm going to add this to this one, modify this, so navigation bar, and yeah, that's it. So actually all instances of this navigation bar, I want to know where this navigation bar is actually used. So I'll say flet core over here and say find in files and say navigation bar, and try to find all its instances. So the navigation bar, this you already know, the class navigation bar, that's what we created. Navigation bar in the page, okay, and in the view also. So in the view, it's also important. and you're going to say exactly the same thing from flet core dot Cupertino navigation bar, import the navigation bar. We're going to follow this one to know where it was used. So navigation bar, I guess I also missed this in the page. The options. Okay, page has no, okay. Sorry for that, okay. And here, let me just rename it to, oops, I don't have it anymore. All right, so I'm going to come back and say Cupertino and modify this to union. I'm going to import this from typing and say, no. All right, move down. Or let me copy this before I move on because I'm going to need it. And from here, I say navigation bar, I modify this. And on the next instance, I modify this too. Okay, so I guess that should be all. Let me check again, because it's really important. You don't want to let the users to be able to use the both in the file. So it's either you use the navigation bar, the material one, or you use the Cupertino one. So we really need to modify all instances of this navigation bar, or we really need to go about all the sections where it's being used. So the page and the view we have already modified there, and that's actually all for the Python section, I guess. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a simple example over here. I'm going to create a very simple example. Let's actually get the example from Flet, and we'll move to controls, navigation, and navigation bar. So I'm going to get this example and adapt it to my actual needs. And actually, I want the Cupertino navigation bar. So this is what we are going to be testing. And from here, I guess this should work as expected. All right, let's leave this as such, and yeah, close this page. Cupertino navigation bar, we are actually done with this. Yeah, we are done. Now let's move to the data section. So that's another interesting section, and for that you move to the package. You move to the package, and then lib, and then source, controls, and you're actually going to do exactly the same thing. So the navigation bar is the navigation bar, and you're going to copy this navigation bar, paste it, and say Cupertino just before Cupertino navigation bar. We're going to add it to Git. Let's actually close this, and I'm going to move this to the right. So I have my Cupertino navigation bar, the Python file, and the dat file. I splitted this as such because I would need the controls here, and I'll need them to make modifications on the dat counterpart. So first thing is to modify all instances of navigation bar with Cupertino navigation bar. So I'm going to replace this and say Cupertino navigation bar. And I'll say replace all, I guess. All right, let's have a look if there's any error. Perhaps there should be an error over here. Okay, and it says the Cupertino method isn't defined. Okay, import it from the Cupertino, and it gives a lot of errors. We are going to have a look at all that. All right, so as you can see, this is the selected index, and from here the list map with the selected index. So all that we don't have to change. This is the event for the unchange. We equally don't have to change that. This is okay. This is the disable. This is the selected index once more. The navigation label behavior. This we don't need it. As you can see on the Python section, we don't need this property. So I'm going to get rid of it. And here is the navigation bar inside a store connector. And let's have a look. And it says over here, builder return a Cupertino navigation bar. So disable behavior, we don't need this property. As I can see, a hide property. So we're going to talk about the height property probably later, I don't know. So actually everything is marked as red. Okay, so this height property, we'll get rid of it. This elevation property, all right, let's actually get rid of all the properties we are not using. This will make everything a little bit easier to understand. I'm going to get, so selected index is not needed. The name parameter is not defined. I thought this thing equally had a section index, or it's named differently perhaps. CupertinoNavigationBar, and over here, current index. So it's named here current index. But here you can leave selected index. This is for consistency with the material navigation bar that was already added. So you can leave selected index, it's the same thing. So over here, you modify this to current index. So why is it actually, okay, sorry for that. I think I'm using the wrong thing. So actually here we are supposed to be using the Cupertino tab bar, as you can see, and I was using the Cupertino navigation bar. Let's just get rid of it and use the Cupertino tab bar. That's why I was getting a lot of errors, I guess. So this Cupertino tab bar, the name parameter items is required, but there is no corresponding. So you'll say add required argument items. I'm going to copy these items and remove it from here, because instead of destinations, it's actually items that is supposed to be used. But I see a lot of the argument. The argument navigation destination can be assigned to a parameter of type navigation destination. Just a moment. So over here it says a list of navigation bar item, and over here it says a list of navigation of bottom navigation bar item, and here bottom navigation bar item. So I actually don't understand why it's refusing these items. I don't understand that. I don't understand why it is refusing these items actually. The argument type, this can be assigned to a parameter of type bottom navigation bar item navigation destination. Okay, so let's just get rid of it. I think we are going to add it later on. So let's just say, I don't know, let's just say items like this for now. Let's add the other properties and we will come back to these items. So we have this background color that we have added, so this BG color, and as you can see, this is very important. So this section BG color, as you can see, it doesn't, the case doesn't matter. So you can say BG color with a big C or a small c, it will actually be lowercase everywhere. So let me show. So this, for instance, inside the get attribute, you actually be lowercase, but we always use this camel case. So when you need to use something that is similar to a color or that looks like a color, you can just copy this and modify this and this, and that's what I'm actually going to do for these two color properties we've added, so active color and inactive color. So I'm going to copy this, paste it twice, and modify this to active color, modify this to inactive color. And it says inactive color. Let me read the error message. The argument of type color can be assigned to a parameter of type color. So that's why it's actually very important to know, to have some little Dart knowledge, because when you see such an error and my IDE doesn't give a suggestion, so you actually need to know some Dart to be able to resolve this error. So all we have to do to solve this error is very simple. Just add an exclamation over here and the error will be resolved. So that's actually some kind of Dart stuff you need to know. So it says that this inactive color doesn't want to receive a null. So it doesn't want a color with a null, it wants a color. So if you are calling it, you are giving it a color. You can't give it null. So you are giving this over here to tell it, hey, we are not going to give you a null. So for icon size, what we do is, let's have a look at, so anything that takes a number, we can actually move back to this navigation bar where you were. Where is it? Navigation bar. Close this, and this elevation that was here. So this elevation, I'm copying because I want you to see exactly, so I want you to know where you will be able to get help. So as you can see, elevation is a property that takes a number, so a double, an int or something, and the property we are looking for is this icon size. It's actually also a double, which therefore is to 30. So this elevation, we can use it, so we can use its value over here, which we are going to modify, and you're going to see icon size. We paste this and modify this to icon size, camera case, icon size, and it's going to raise an error saying the argument of type double, so double with the question mark, can be assigned to a parameter of type double without question mark. This actually means you need to give it a default. So when calling this attribute double, you can precise a default value, and this default value, as you saw in the documentation, so let me hover over this, icon size 30. So we are going to give it a default, but this will not resolve this error message, this error shown over here. We need to add this here. So if you don't provide a default value, the default value will be null, and as you've seen, this icon size cannot take a null value. So when there is a question mark over here, it means it can take a null value, but when there is no question mark, it means it takes a double, nothing else. So that's the reason why we are giving it a default value of 30, such that if the developer doesn't give an icon size, give it a default value of 30. And here is to tell the Flutter or this application or this line of code, I don't know, that we are not going to provide you a null value. So be rest assured, we are not going to give you a null value. We're actually going to give you a floating value. So just to repeat myself, if when passing this attribute, this icon size attribute, the user doesn't give an icon size, so null, so unknown as it said over here. So when it is known, this default value will be used. But if you provide a value, so when building your application, if you provide a value, the value will be used instead of this 30. And this question mark is to say, be rest assured, I'm going to give you a value. I'm going to give you a double. Don't be afraid, don't fear. So what's the next property? The next property we've added of this kind of, and the next property is border. So if you've remembered very well, we took this border from the container. So over here, I'm also going to move to the container to get the border, to get how it is done. So I'm going to set over here border, scroll down. So this is border radius. Okay, border is over here. So have a look at how simple it is. So as you can see, that this one below is border radius. We don't need it. What we need is this line border. So border uses a parse border to be able to parse our border. So we'll copy this line, move over here, and just paste it just there. And as you can see, it says control is not defined. This is because in this file we are using widget control instead of just control. So we change this to widget.control and everything is fine. On destination selected, this one is not actually, I don't think it's called like that here. So what's its name? It is called on tap. I think it's called on tap here as it is shown over here. Let me have a look. So this one was called on destination selected, but over here we call it on tap. So that's how it's called here, and we are going to modify all instances of this on destination selected. So I'm going to modify this and say replace this with I don't know, let's say tap. So this is a function, I don't know what I can say, probably on tap, I guess. On tap, I can also leave destination change, but I want kind of a consistency. I will probably leave destination change. All right, let's just leave destination change, or let's change to on tap. So it sometimes happens I have some kind of doubts and I don't know what to use actually, but we can change to this on tap, and that's it. So the next property is this height. We've left it apart. These properties have been done. This index has been done. Next property is actually these items. So border has been done. The next property is these items. Let me close this, and I'm going to copy this. I don't know why it refused to work in the first place, but I hope I hope it works now. Let me copy it like this and see items. So these items, as you can see, it's a list of button navigation bar items. I'm going to say paste this over here, and it still shows the dark screen, or this error message, sorry. So we need to understand why it's not working as expected. The argument of type list navigation destination can be assigned to the parameter type list button navigation bar item navigation destination. But why did it work over here? Destination view, controlling model, destinations. The destinations, it takes a list. It takes a list of widget. The list of destinations, usually navigation destinations. Okay. All right. So these items actually takes a list of bottom navigation bar item. Don't know what's the difference. Bottom navigation bar item. Okay, so bottom navigation bar item has a tooltip. This tooltip has been implemented over here. It has an icon which has already been implemented, and it has an active icon. And as you can see over here, it is set selected icon. So what we are going to do is just modify the name. So over here we just say active icon, and that's it. That's just it. So active icon, I'm going to modify this one to say active icon also, and because I modified this, I have to modify this and this active icon. That's just it. That's just how it is done. So these, there are no errors. You can also format and say reformat, so that they should look kind of flutterish. All right, so I guess that's it, and we are equally going to move to all the instances of navigation bar. So you scroll a little bit up. I'm going to copy this navigation bar and search for all the instances of navigation bar inside these controls or inside the SRC. So find it files, navigation bar. Okay, it's already there. So as you can see, let me say open in find window. So we have over here, let me close the unnecessary stuff. Okay, over here it says this is the first one. This is the first instance, return navigation bar control. So I said open it over here. I'm going to close this, and probably close this also. Okay, as you can see, the navigation bar is also used here. So I'll copy this case, and below it I'm going to paste this one, and as you can see, it says this case is already covered. So it's already covered. That's because we need to modify it to Cupertino navigation bar, and over here Cupertino navigation bar, and we have to import this control. So it's imported, and just exactly like the navigation bar control. Okay, so that's done. This one is done. It's used here, and it's used in the page. Interesting. Why is it used in the page? So bottom navigation bar, and it takes a bottom navigation bar, I actually added this BNB. I remember having this. So it says navigation bar, and we actually don't need to do anything here. Or probably, I think you need to do something. A moment. Control the type is equals to navigation bar. Navigation bar equals to control. I think we need to modify this to include the Cupertino navigation bar also. I think we need to modify this. And just to be sure, I'm going to move to the flet files. Just to be sure, I move to the view and have a look. Is it actually modified? Okay, it's not. Okay, all right. So I think we'll have to modify it over here. So create control has been done, the page. So I think we're going to need to add it here. So if the control type is of type navigation bar, or or if the control type is of type Cupertino navigation bar. So if it's one of these, take it, and I think that should be all. I think that should be all. Let me have a look at the usage string constants and still in our files. So that's everything. Let me close this view, and now we are going to run the application. So this is our first test. So I usually do kind of a lot before I start testing. So to test, as I said in the setup, you can just say Flutter run. Say Flutter run, and you can choose your device. If you want to run on a mobile device, I think you can use the Flutter emulators command, and it says 3 available emulators. So I have available emulators that I can use, and it says to run an emulator, run Flutter emulators, launch emulator ID. So this is how you can launch an emulator. We can actually run this application on an iPhone, for instance, to see the changes directly on an iOS device. Okay, maybe I'll do that towards the end when we want to see the result. But for now, I'm going to run it with macOS. So Flutter run, and I'm going to say D and say macOS. So I don't want to say Flutter run and then select the ID. This is just my short command. So Flutter run D macOS. And while this takes time to build and all the stuffs, I'm going to activate my environment over here. And to activate your environment, all you say is poetry run flet poetry run flet run, the W flag, the port of 8550, and then your main.py file. Oops, it's not named main.py, it's named test changes. So that's how you run it, and it's going to run this test changes.py. Let's wait for it to pop up. Okay, we don't actually want the web version, and you're going to notice that the web version is really kind of incomplete. So let me wait for it to done so I can show. So this is what happens on the web version. It shows a gray screen. This is actually because it has not been built. So if you want to test on the web, we are going to do it probably later. If you want to test on the web, you need to run. So you need to say Flutter build web, or you need to say, sorry, Flutter run web. So as I said over here, Flutter run, as I said, let me show it. Flutter run macOS, you need to say Flutter run, I guess, Chrome, for it to run on the web, or for it to build the web application. We're going to do that later. So you have a view of how it looks like. But if you just build the macOS, or you build for an emulator, it's not going to build the web. So you actually see a gray screen over here. But it's not bad, because our application will soon pop up. So that's it. This is our application. Let's have a look. Let's wait for it. Okay, null check operator used on a null value. And I actually know from where this is coming from. Let me show you directly from where it is coming from. It comes from these null checks that I added, CupertinoNavigationBar. So I added a null check, I guess. Where was it? Where was it? Over here on the inactive color. So a null check was used on the inactive color. So I actually told this Flutter application, hey, I won't give you a null value. Be rest assured, I won't give you a null value. But actually, I gave it a default of none, of null or none if you want it. So I actually gave it a null value. So that's what it is reporting to me and telling me, hey, you used something, you told me you're not going to give me a null value, but you actually gave me a null value. So why is it so? Why is it like that? So what we have to do is to move to these test changes and to give it a value. I think we need to actually fix that. So inactive color, you can give it, I don't know, a color of gray perhaps. Let's just give something, and I guess now it should work. Okay, this should be because of the second one, because of this. Oh no, because of what can it be? Let me actually read this Flutter logs to see where the error comes from. No check operator was used on, okay, and it says this navigation bar, and it comes from here. Okay, all right. So I actually made an error, as you can see. Oh, I made 2 errors. So it's because of this active color and this inactive color. I didn't modify the values over here. So it's going and it's actually going and fetching the value of BG color and setting it to active color. And because we did not set the value of the BG color, it says, hey, I took the value of the BG color, but you're actually still giving me null. Hey, give me a value, please. And so we need to modify this and say active color, and from here, inactive color. If you had a look at the setup video, I said you should not close this and restart it from 0. What you actually need to do is to press H, and you see it says reload restart. So you can press the restart, for instance. It performs a hot restart on your application, and the application will be rebuilt. All right, as you can see, the application works now as expected. It popped up, and it works just as expected. That is awesome. I think you actually done. I think you actually did all that was required. So that's how simple it is to add or to modify this code. And as you notice over here, the web view is still blank. It's still blank. We're going to build for web later on, but let's make sure everything is all right before we move on. So in the test changes, I'm going to test the light mode, team mode dot light. Let me actually say page dot always on top, because I don't really want to be calling this window every time. Okay, so it works quite fine, and we need to test our additions, because when you don't test your additions, you won't know if there was something or if there was an error you made or something like that. So I always try to test a lot of properties as possible. So the BG color works as expected. That's it. Looks really nice. Wow, looks really nice. And what other property can we test? Let me move back to this Cupertino tab bar, and what other property can we test? We can probably test the on tap event. Let's have a look. Is the on tap event called? So on change, it is called here on change, and you'll say lambda print selected tab. Okay, let's just say like that, and open this, press OK. It is called as expected. So 0, 1, and 2. Very nice. Awesome. So the on change is called as expected. Let's have a look at the active color. Hey, let me say black. Oops, black. Wow. All right, I guess we're actually done. And probably let me have a look at the height. Does the height work? Because I don't know, is the height actually functioning as expected? I guess no. Okay, it works. It works. It works. So when a property has already been implemented, you actually don't need to call it once more. You actually don't need to call it once more. So that's just it. That's how simple it is. I guess simple. That's how easy it is to add a new property. And let's actually view it for web. I don't know if I can just attach. I don't know if I can just attach a. I'll probably have to kill this. So we are going to test on web and we are going to test on mobile if it works as expected. So close this and I'm going to say Flutter run. Oh, it's not web. I guess it's not web. It's Chrome OS, if I can remember. Okay, no devices found. Checking for wireless. Yeah, it's actually, I'm supposed to say Chrome instead of web. So that's actually the importance of always calling the Flutter run, having a look at the available devices before running the command. But that's it. It's going to run our application and you don't need to close this one. So we don't need to close this connection. The application will stay alive. Okay, yeah, the application will stay alive and we will just wait for this one to connect. And while it is actually connecting, what we can do is open a new terminal session on the client and say Flutter emulators. We can start running an emulator so that we don't waste a lot of time. So I think I want to run this Apple iOS simulator. So to run an emulator, you say Flutter emulators, launch the emulator ID. I think it's Apple iOS simulator, or it's iOS, I don't know. Okay, it worked. So it's popping up. Oh, let me change the device because I was using, let me change the device to iOS this and say 15 Pro Max. Let's just say it like that. And our application has connected or is connected successfully. I guess this is the web application trying to run. Let me check. Which application is this? Let's wait for it to pop up. Maybe it's the simulator actually trying to run. So I'm going to close this because I need it and wait for this iOS 15 Pro Max to come up. That's the device we are going to be testing to see if our addition to the Cupertino navigation bar works on a mobile phone. So it actually takes a lot of time to run. That's what I hate on this. And from here, I think we can say, we'll see later on Flutter run to see the devices, and it's going to detect this iPhone. I don't know if it can detect it now, but it's going to detect this wireless device or this iPhone that I connected to the simulator. And as you can see, it's actually launching it directly on this iPhone simulator. So it didn't show me the list of devices as over here, or as over here, I mean, but it directly launched so it's trying to launch the application on the iPhone 15 Pro Max. All right, so this has popped up. Where is the application supposed to show? Okay, so it opened a new terminal session. What I mean, it opens a new tab, but I don't know why it opened a new window. But that's it. That's the application working. We have built it for web, and this is it working, as you can see. So that's quite it. I can close this, I guess, because we are waiting now for the iPhone mode. And as usual, fail to exit, we try sending save. Okay. And as usual for the hot restart, I guess you can still press H and then restart. So I'm not that a fan of web. I'm a fan of trying either on the simulator or on my Mac desktop. So it's still trying to running port install, and let's just wait for it to pop up. So this was a quite simple addition. And we will later on commit the changes and make a PR to the Flet repo. So that's it. That's how it moves to make additions to the Flet repo. So I'll probably skip all of this because it takes a lot of time. So I was committing the changes and the application is actually built or has been built successfully. So let me close this. And yeah, there's our application. And as you can see, it works on the iPhone successfully. Notice this body over here. If you have made a lot of work in Flet, you actually know that this is caused. So the reason for this is because we did not use the safe area. So we actually need to wrap this into a safe area and say safe area like this. And from here, we wrap this body into it. And you'll see the body will appear somewhere, I guess somewhere here, but it will be quite better. Okay, as you can see, it appears better. So that's an effect of safe area. So the addition works successfully, and I have committed the changes. So I've committed the changes. I'm on the Flet CupertinoNavigationBar, and here are the changes that I just committed. I'm going to have a look at this branch later on after this video and kind of wrap up the PR. But this is actually it. I'm going to publish this branch and we're actually going to make the PR together. So I publish the branch, and from here I can move to the Flet repo, git flet, and it says CupertinoNavigationBar had a recent push. So CupertinoNavigationBar Control, and I'm going to say it closes. I guess an issue has not been opened for that, so it doesn't close any issue. An issue was not open for that, I guess. Let me move back to the roadmap. Okay, so an issue was not open for that, so I'm just going to say I'm going to add that later probably, but all what you need to add is the code. So the test code, actually the test code, I'm going to make it some kind of bold, and just so that any developer hopping on this should be able to use this to test the application. So you say test code and you paste the code just below and say over here Python. So that's just it, and I'll create the pull request. I think assignees, I can assign myself for one, but I'm already on this PR. So project, I guess I'll add it to the Flet project. Yeah. So create a pull request. I'm not going to ask for a review at the moment because I'm going to have a look at the PR if there's anything missing and add it before I request a review from Theodore or from Inessa. So the continuous integration will run and we'll be able to see all of that in here. So if anything fails, so succeeded, that's just it. If anything fails, we are going to have a look at it from here. Thanks for watching this video to the end. If you found it useful, please encourage me by pressing the like button below and subscribing to my channel. This was the Ethical Boy. I wish you a nice day. See you in the next video.